Tyrese Halliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Setting the Pace. No Alex Golden today, but I am holding it down today with reoccurring guest David Cole. David, welcome back to the show. The first time you and I have done an episode. I know I've missed many that you've been on.
That's right. That's right. It's okay though. I think it's only fitting that one of Jay Huff's better games to have the president of the Jay Huff Hater Club not present. I think it's fitting.
And I think we actually have some beef we got to talk about because I think it was you that said I'm no longer the president of Jermaine O'Neal fan club because I didn't wish him happy birthday. That one stung. I gotta be honest.
Yeah. Now I think beef's a little strong. I think Alex would like there to be beef because it's good content.
He loves that. I mean,
He loves
that
it.
man he likes to poke the bear and he likes to stir it up a little bit. So I knew he was just grinning ear to ear, being like, "Ooh, you got to listen to this."
Any opportunity.
Any opportunity, but no, hey, nonetheless, the Jay Huff hater is off the show, and I think he's turned into a fan because Jay Huff is giving the Pacers a lot to root about, and I feel like in this game, kind of similar to recently, Jay Huff kicking the Pacers off early, hit 3 threes in a row in the first quarter, goes on a run, actually led all players in scoring after the first quarter with 9. But I think it's the blocks that have been as consistent as they come. I feel like over the last week or so, everybody has uncovered now that there's been enough games played or Wemby hasn't played enough games, however you want to put it, that he is the block leader in the NBA. He does it once again with 3 blocks. I mean, this is something I feel like we can count on a nightly basis, at least from a rim protection standpoint.
Yeah, it's been exciting. I will say, I think we were all so ready for Jay Huff to come in and just take over, and he was not what we what we wanted him to be. And there's multiple different reasons why that you and Alex talked about. That's old news for now. Right now, though, this is what what we were expecting. I don't think we expected Miles Turner 2.0. I think we expected Miles Turner point 0.5, and and we were getting Miles Turner point 2.
Yeah.
Back in the beginning of the season, and so now to be getting anywhere from 10 to 15, 15 points for Jay Huff is
Great.
like that.
That's great.
Yeah, that's amazing. And if he averaged 1.5 blocks a game, I'd be happy. Over 2 is like just ridiculous. And to see that the shot is falling now, given that the start was so rough, my wife has become a fan. Towards the end of last season, she really picked it up with me, which I love. But she was like, a few games into the season, she was like, "Didn't we get him because he's a shooter?" After he was missing shot after shot after shot after shot. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, he was a good shooter in Memphis, and eventually it's worked out. And that I'm just thrilled that it has. I don't think that he is like gonna be the reason why we win a championship, obviously, but to go from thinking that maybe he's a third string center or maybe not even that to being like, no, he definitely has a place. He could be a backup, and he could give you starter minutes on occasion, certain matchups, certain things like that. He will be a serviceable center in the league, in the right system, and I think that so far in the last 5 games, maybe we've seen that we have a good system for him. So it was impressive again to see him get off to a hot start.
Yeah, Huff scored in double figures in 6 of the last 7 games now. I mean, this type of play is what Indiana could have used in the NBA Finals last year from the center position. It's what they were unable to get. But yeah, discount Turner. I mean, this is like a guy on a $2+ million contract that you can't expect all-star results from, but from like a backup center capable type of situation. I mean, absolutely, he's being asked to be a starting center in a situation where he probably shouldn't have to be that. But I think that I like what I'm seeing. At least get into a good rhythm. But hey, nonetheless, let's talk about this game. Indiana goes down 135 to 119 to Cleveland. Now, I gotta say, it's not all about Indiana being depleted. This was a Cleveland team that was without Jared Allen, was without Darius Garland, Larry Nance was out. They had a few guys that were out, so we can't just say, well, they're a way talented team, more team. They are a really good team, but they also did have their injuries, and at times they were up 21 points this game, and at times Indiana cut it down to single digits going into the fourth quarter, trailed by only 9. But nonetheless, I think the talent of Cleveland probably just proved to be a bit too much for the Pacers. And anytime you got a healthy Donovan Mitchell, you got a problem for that opposing team, and that is exactly what he was tonight.
Yeah, I think that's probably the big picture takeaway is the the gap there in talent and having an all-pro, an all-NBA first team player versus a team that does not have that. Not a second team, not a third team right now because Tyrese is out. And Pascal, I think, could maybe at some point in his career crack, and I think he has in the past, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
But this year he's probably an all-star, or maybe depending on hopefully depending on how much they factor in our record. But not Donovan Mitchell. But I think you can kind of get into some of the nitty-gritty of it, and I think that, like, one of the things I'm pleased to see over the last, again, like we've said, 5 or 6 games, is that even if we lose, it feels like we're losing the games that you're like, "Well, yeah, we're gonna lose to the Cavs," or, "Yeah, we're gonna lose to this team." And then we're, competitive against the teams that are in the middle of the pack, like the Bulls. We win or lose that game, I would've been happy. If Pascal misses that shot, I'd been like, "You know what? Hey, good fight. That's a 500 team that we just barely lost to." But we beat them, and then we're beating the teams like Washington where they have no business being on the floor with us, even without Tyrese. Like, we're just more talented than they are right now. Sorry, I know that's just a sore spot for you, but, uh
Go on.
no, but, on a serious note, it is like, as someone who's like, "Yeah, we need to go for a high draft pick this year," I still don't wanna see bad basketball
Oh,
for 82 games. I don't wanna see, like, just, like, no effort, no heart, no spirit. I wanna see pieces of my favorite team in the last my I'm 36 years old. Probably my favorite team I ever watched play basketball was the last season,
totally.
and it's just like I want to see some of that at least, even though I know rationally we should not be fighting for a play-in spot. We should be fighting for a lottery pick. I don't want to see 5-78 or
Yeah.
whatever it would be, 77 season. You're gonna get some wins. And so I think that the fact that they fought and were in this game in multiple different places is really great. There are a couple times in the first half where I felt like they specifically Andrew and Pascal, which is kinda random. I felt like they were settling a little bit, and then they got into a groove by the 3rd quarter, and that's when we kinda cut it down to, like, at 8 or 9 at one point, and then 6 at one point in the 4th quarter, and just to see that they're not giving up on games in even though they don't have Tyrese, it wouldn't be crazy to be like, "Oh, yeah, just give up on this one, we're down by 20, whatever, flush it." And they haven't done that, and I appreciate as a fan watching all these games, I appreciate that they're giving it their all.
Oh, yeah, for the amount of effort that this fan base puts in, you don't wanna see your team get blown out, and there was a couple of really bad losses, earlier in November, like, giving up 152 points to Utah or losing by 35 to Phoenix. I mean, those were some really, really rough losses. They lost to Toronto by, 18. I mean, there was definitely obviously the loss to Brooklyn was, like, probably rock bottom. And I think that lately we've seen a far more competitive Pacers team. I think with Cleveland, we knew this is one. You don't want to just say it's a scheduled loss, but like, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. The Pacers, odds of them going to a 3-game winning streak, a little bit on the more slimmer side. So it doesn't happen now. Could happen at some point, but I feel like when you're talking about, some of the things, obviously Donovan Mitchell is Donovan Mitchell. He puts up, 40 plus points in this game. But I felt like for Indiana, at halftime, Benedict Mathurin was just 0 of 2. He was scoreless. That to me was probably it's not the probably. It's definitely the quietest he had been all season. He's had some really good games, been really fun to watch. I felt like by halftime it just he didn't have it going, only 2 shots, not enough for him, finishes with just 8 points in this game, just not a Mathurin type of performance, and on the other end, you obviously, you needed to try and keep up with that type of scoring, so I felt like they didn't get that out of Mathurin tonight. It's unfortunate, but, one guy that they did get it out of, and it's a guy, who got renewed. An extra 10 days for Garrison Matthews, goes off in the 2nd quarter, drops 10 points. All of a sudden, I'm like, this is probably a problem if Matthews has 10 points and he's amongst the Pacers, leading scorers by halftime. You're probably not going to win that game, but it was actually fun to see him go 3 for 3 from 3 tonight. That is literally what he gets paid to do, and he had not been shooting the 3 ball well. Good to see Garrison Matthews see the ball go in.
Yeah, I watched the game at my in-laws tonight, and my father-in-law is like, "You know what? I don't think I really, like this 24 guy." And he's a fairly casual fan, and so he was like, he's supposed to be a shooter. He's been pretty terrible as a shooter." And he said this at about halftime, and I was like, "Well, he's 2 for 2 tonight."
Yep, he
He's like,
was.
"Oh." Yeah, we're just hanging out with family, and I'm watching it pretty close because, I'm just more of a fan, but and because I knew I was coming on here as well, so I was like, "Well, I'm gonna watch it then." And, I was just like, it is surprising. He was shooting like Clay, like
Yeah.
Steph, like, and I'm not saying in terms of the volume or in terms of I just mean, like, when he was letting it go on movement, catch and shoot threes and just letting it go with confidence and look good the whole way, like, yeah, it's going in from, like, 6 feet behind the line. It was like, "What is this? Like, where's this guy been?"
This is the guy we thought we were getting.
Yeah.
Like, even
So
10-day contract or not, it was like, "All right, this guy is a sniper. He hits
yeah.
threes. Pretty much all of his shots are going to be threes," except he had been something like 2 of 13 or something of the sort from 3. It was atrocious early on, but for him to be able to be given a second chance, it felt like tonight was a night where he made the most of it.
And I felt like he was hustling on defense. He makes some mistakes. He's not not gonna give you what you want on the defensive end, generally speaking. But it felt like he was hustling to get back to his rotations and on his
Over on the
assignments, and
floor at one point, I remember he was
yeah,
he was laying it all out there.
yeah. So he's and that's all you can ask for. If he's not gonna be have the skills at this point in time in his career or whatever, or physically maybe he's not as quick as some other guy or whatever, that's fine. But I'd rather you give it everything and not quite be there than to just be like, whatever, and not care as much. So, and in terms of Matherin, I wonder if his toe is still an issue. Not that it's like not that he's not cleared to play or anything like that, or that they're putting him in danger. But one of the games recently, I feel like they brought it back up on the broadcast. I don't remember. I want to say it was Quinn that was talking about it. But I could be wrong. And just talking about how it's just a painful situation, and it even if he could play, it may not be 100%. And he just seems like he's a little, at least tonight, he seemed like he was a little bit less aggressive than he usually is, and it seemed like the physicality of the Cavs defense was maybe bothering him is the wrong word, but making him have to adjust and making him not be able to get to the spots he usually wants to get to. So he wasn't finishing quite as well. And there's a couple times where he could have given him a foul call, but like it never felt like it was this huge issue that the refs were just swallowing the whistle or anything like that. I just felt like generally defensively, the Cavs are really solid. They play pretty physical and on both ends of the ball, really. And they played more physical tonight, and I think that showed. And I think one of the ways that it showed was through Mathurin not being able to score as much.
Yeah, and I stand corrected. It was 11 points he dropped, not 8 that I mentioned earlier. But also, I mean, 11 points, his fewest of the season, his 9 shot attempts, fewest of the season, his minutes, 22 minutes, fewest of the season. It just felt like it was just a forgettable type of performance. And, he's going to come down to, not to say come down to reality, but he had been like on fire for most of the year. In specific, his first like 4 or 5 games of the season, he had dropped the minimum of 21 in every single game, and I think lately we've seen some performances more of the 14 points or 15 points or 19 points, tied 11. So, yeah, maybe he does have a little bit of some lingering type of issues, but he had played 38 minutes for Chicago, 34 against Washington, so had played more minutes, but I think it's a long season, and he'll have some type of performances like that. Pascal Siakam was, as advertised, who he's been, drops 26 points, 11 of 21 shooting, 7 boards. He checked out with about 7 minutes to go in this game, and Indiana had been down maybe like 16 points or so at the time, something of the sort. And like, I didn't disagree with it. I felt like it was like, hey, you know what? You're probably not going to make this comeback. Like, it is going to be a long season. Don't run Siakam into the ground. There's no need for him to play, 38 minutes in this game or anything of the sort when you're probably not making that type of comeback. So I feel like these are the type of, give him a little break here, give him a little break there. He's not pulling like a Kawhi Leonard where he's just going to be like sitting out for a bunch of games. Like, hey, you know what? If you're down double digits and there's a handful of minutes left, last year's Pacers team, anything was possible. This year's Pacers team, just a little bit different.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is you're shooting 10 to 30 from 3,
Yeah.
so it's, that's the way that we've always been able to claw back into games is, you have to have some defensive stops, obviously, but you also have to start hitting some shots. And, 48% from the field is not good, but not awful, but 33% from the 3-point line is, especially for the Pacers, is pretty rough. You know, Pascal was 0 for 3, Jarris was 0 for 5, JRE was 0 for 3. I'm not sure why he's shooting 3 threes, but he's 0 for 3.
3 is a
And
bit
then sh
bit too
he
much for a guy, yeah, who ain't
Yeah,
enough.
yeah, and Shepherd had an off night. He had a couple good games the last 2 games, and his shot wasn't falling tonight. So he's 0 for 2. So, you had a couple people that could hit a couple shots, but generally speaking, if you're not hitting your 3, you're already missing a couple of your best shooters, obviously with Tyrese out, but also Aaron's out, and, it's just like, sure, we've cut it down to 6 before, but, like, once it hits 16, 18, it's like, okay.
Yeah. No. I just feel like Garrison Matthews was the only player off the bench who hit a 3. I think everyone else, it was just like you mentioned, just, some rough shooting overall, but one of the key differences I felt like in this game early on was Cleveland on the glass. I mean, I really feel like the Cavs, even without Jared Allen, are still just a bigger, more physical team, and I feel like that really showed. At halftime, Cleveland was up, had the rebound advantage of 27-15, and it was 11-2 on the offensive glass. So I feel like that was a big difference that enabled Cleveland to have 17 more shot attempts at halftime, despite Indiana shooting 50%. They were 18 of 36 at a halftime. I mean, what can you really do? They still trailed by 12 due to 17 less shots compared to Cleveland. I feel like that was really what kind of set the tone early on, and Cleveland never really had to look back after that.
Yeah, and Evan Mobley, he was great in this game, and I think he's a part of that tone setting in terms of the physicality. He didn't have, like, an incredible game statistically speaking. He
Really
only
did.
played 28 minutes, 13 points, 5 boards, 5 assists, but I just felt like whenever he touched the ball, good things happened, and he specifically was aggressive with the ball. He didn't get a ton of touches, like I said, but whenever he did, he was effective and impactful, and I felt like whatever was going on with him injury-wise and just schematically in the playoffs, even though he had a worse game, maybe statistically speaking, than what he may have had some of the playoff games, his aggression in this game, I felt like, his physicality in this game, I felt like, was something I didn't see a whole lot of in the playoffs, and so I thought that was something that kind of helped them set the tone, even though, and I felt like, we had several people kind of try to fight. Huff had a play in the second half where we had 2 blocks on the same play, and Isaiah Jackson, I thought, played pretty solid. He obviously commits some fouls, but, like, I felt like he was okay. It just feels like when Evan Mobley wants to do what Evan Mobley wants to do, it's gonna be over for us. Like, I don't think you can expect Jay Huff or Isaiah Jackson to be able to hang with him.
No, and that's kind of been a little bit of the issue this year for Evan Mobley is like people expect a lot more. I expect a lot more. I mean, I think this is a guy that is incredibly talented, that I think people thought would really take a leap. And a lot of his numbers are down, if not the same, compared to last year, despite playing about 4.5 more minutes per game. So I think that Mobley is someone that can take over a game. And I was pretty pleased that I felt like he didn't have to have a huge scoring game or anything, but nonetheless, a plus 22 in this game just influences the game in many different ways. He can block shots, gifted passer for his size, solid rebounder, didn't really show tonight. Obviously, he can score. He was over 3 from 3, but like that's an off night for Evan Mobley, and they still won by 16. So it just shows that, hey, when this guy's on, yeah, teams better watch out. But I think overall, one thing that we did get to see a little bit of, and I say a little bit because when you're getting blown out, I wanted to see a little bit more. Ethan Thompson making his Pacers debut late in the game. I felt like that it got to a point where that was the only thing I was rooting for was like, give me some Ethan Thompson. I want to see it with my eyes. Let me see the newcomer. I feel like this is almost like a club where it's like every week we're just inviting someone new in. Oh, it's Garrison Matthews. It's JRE. It's Mac McClung. This time it's Ethan Thompson. Had a good take to the rim, scored, had an assist. Not a lot to tell your wife about or tell a friend, but Ethan Thompson makes his Pacers debut. 7 minutes, wearing number 55 like Roy Hibbert. Oh, how the times change. They just give out those old numbers now, but I understand it's not like it's going to go in the rafters. Ethan Thompson, not much to talk about, but is there something that you liked?
I mean, I'm a little bit frustrated for Ray J. I mean, it is what it is. It's a business.
People
I'm
are
not
hurt.
gonna get I'm not
So
gonna get too worked up
sure.
about it.
No, I
Yeah.
definitely, saw the, like, "Man, I'm really upset. I didn't see this coming," like,
Yeah.
I get it. It's a tough spot to be in when, like, Indiana needs a guard, and I feel like they're a little bit more invested in, like, a Taylor Peter, for the future compared to a Ray J, and it's a
And
tough situation, and,
yeah.
you
And you
can
got Cam
obviously do it.
Jones waiting in the wings as well in
I
terms of
know, like, you can't
so
cut him. It's just like they're at this, like, Tyrese counts as a roster spot. You're in such a tough spot that it's just like you don't wanna almost send Tony Bradley, packing and gone just to preserve Ray J. Dennis, who's already played, like 10 plus games on the season out of the 50
yeah.
he could.
Yeah, so and I don't know what their plans are, obviously, with Jeremiah Robinson Earl, with Garrison Matthews. So like, if they are wanting to sign one of them to a longer, for more than just small 10-day contracts or small 50-game contracts or the G League type stuff. So who knows what they're if they have any plan at all with Ray J, or this is just the end of it. I will say my wife was not too thrilled, and when Thompson checked in, she was like, "Who is this kid?"
I
And
don't
I was
blame
like,
her.
"This is the guy that we got for AJ." She's like, "Oh, okay, well."
Yeah.
But, I would like to see him get a little more opportunity, give him a fair shake. It is not his fault that Ray J was cut, so any Pacers fans that are frustrated at Ray J, and I'm sure most people are obviously gonna be logical about that, but I would say probably, generally speaking, uh, I would look forward to seeing what he's got. Didn't see a whole lot tonight. Wish he wasn't wearing 55,
I
but
know. I don't know. Like, look, it's not like we're giving out number 7 again. Like the thing.
yeah,
I just every time I just feel like I'm like, oh, this is right.
yeah,
But like 55 for Ethan Thompson, like, it's just like, I don't know, you don't want it to have to pack up more of a weight, like, but, I mean, you just giving these numbers out to just anybody? Like, like, what's next? Is Garrison Matthews gonna get, like, I don't know, like, Miles Turner number in the future or something? Like, it's just really like, come on, let's keep it to some sort of status, but I guess it is what it is, and, there's only so many numbers to go around, but even as a guard, 55, I mean, there's other guards that have worn 55 before, but, it just feels different. You associate it with Roy Hibbert, but, nonetheless, this is just one of those games where, hey, it's hard to have a lot of different takeaways. I think that, like we said, Siakam is who he was. I think Andrew Nembhard is someone we didn't touch on too much, but, like, I felt like he had a solid performance from, like, an offensive standpoint, like, 21 points, 7 of 11 shooting. Good to see the three-point ball going in. He had some good mid-ranges that I feel like he struggled on. 6 assists to 2 turnovers. You could always live with the 3-to-1 ratio. I felt like this was a solid type of performance. You don't have too much to knock on, where I feel like there recently had been some struggles, like against Toronto going 2 of 10, or against Detroit going 4 of 14, or anything along those lines. I felt like he kept the Pacers afloat in this game at times.
Yeah, I think both Pascal and Andrew, like I mean, I kind of mentioned for a second earlier. I think in the first half, especially the first quarter, there were several moments where I wanted them to attack more, and they were settling. Especially Pascal was settling for threes, and they just weren't falling. I think he was in the game 0 for 3, but I think he was 0 for 3 in the first half, and I think he just stopped shooting. In this game, it ended up probably being for the best, but both he and Andrew, the second half, they were just going to the rim. They were attacking when they had a size advantage or like a speed advantage for Andrew more so on offense. They're attacking whoever they could, kind of playing a little bit of bully ball like Andrew likes to do, and use kind of a little bit of a shoulder check to some extent, like a light little bump there, try to get some separation, and it was working in the second half, and they were being a lot more aggressive on offense. Pascal's defense this game left something to be desired in my opinion, but Andrew's always going to give you solid defense. It's a tough matchup with Donovan Mitchell, but I'm not going to blame him for Donovan Mitchell having a Donovan Mitchell game. But yes, it was good to have them be able to fight through some minor struggles offensively in the first half, and then both ended up having very effective offensive games by the end of the game, especially given what we're asking them both to do for on both sides of the ball. They're just both asked to do so much more now with Tyrese out. It's a lot, and so to have them be willing and to be effective in good stretches, I think is kind of all we can ask for right now. And preseason, I was hopeful, and I know that so many Pacers fans were hopeful that maybe we could see most improved player from Andrew Nembhard. It's still too early to totally write that off, but this thus far, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
He'd have to really ramp it up from here, but it does seem like that's probably off the table at this point, but he is, really getting in a groove tonight and kind of getting things going, and hopefully he can keep that going on Wednesday. So
Yeah. No, I think this is a performance to build on. But look, this was a performance at home. I looked at it. The Pacers are the only team in the league without a win on the road. Winless on the road. I mean, even Washington's got a win on the road. I mean, even New Orleans has a win on the road. So it's like, it's pretty gross given that Indiana has played one more game than Brooklyn. With this loss, Indiana now falls to having the third worst record in the NBA. So I can't say not a record you want or this, you can make an argument, but like we said, still a lot of games to play. This is 21 games into the season now, so like you have crossed into you're at that 25%, a quarter of the way of the season is already done. And I think at this point, it's a hard spot to come through, and what you want to root for or see. Playoffs probably a little bit out of the question, but like I want some updates on some injuries. I don't know when we're going to get them. Like you talked about Cam Jones earlier. In this type of season, I want to see Cam Jones. I'm at the point, and it's not, look, I'm a fan of his, but like I'm fiending for some Quentin Jackson. Like, can I get some Quentin Jackson out there? Like, that's what I want to see at
yeah.
this point. Give me either of them. Like,
hmm
Obi Toppin, I'm a little bit torn on. Like, if you're not going to be back until February or so, like, you really don't want to risk it. But at the same point, there's still a decent amount of the season left. So, play it cool with that. I don't know when we'll get an Aaron Nesmith update on, how far initially seemed like it was pegged at about 4 weeks or so. But I think this is a time where it's like, yeah, look, the healthier these guys can get, the less 10-day hardships they need to be able to get, the more that you feel that you can get your team back. Because there was a lineup tonight. It was like Ben Shepherd, Garrison Matthews, like Jay Huff, JRE and someone else, and I was just like, what happened to my boys? Like where's the squad last year that felt like it had the
Ugh.
most consistent starting 5 or the best chemistry out there? And I just felt like what we saw at times tonight was just, a little bit of like a Mod Podge or whatever it is of just throwing some guys together and like no real chemistry, not a lot of upside.
No, no, it's yeah. You have when you have several guys on 10 days or that kind of situation, it's tough to build the chemistry when you're having your what was it, like 26th player on the team, something crazy. I don't even know what it was, but like I know that. So I saw somebody talking about with Thompson. It was like he was like the 20 somethings player they've had on the team this year. It's like, okay, well, we're not gonna have any chemistry then, I guess, with that. And at this point, I just want to see Johnny Furphy play again. Like,
But that's another one. I mean, there's so many
like,
guys out that I left out Furphy, but it's like
yeah,
this is like Furphy was the talk
I
of
know.
our league and it was like there's like, oh my God, a highlight reel. It felt like it was like, now this is someone that in a lost season right now would be like one of the top talking points.
Yeah.
Instead, we're opening up the show not with the score, but talking about Jay Huff like in detail to the point where it's like, all right, I guess we got to finally cross over to saying that we lost by 16. But like, it just felt like that's where we're at right now. And like, there's so many other guys that like, hey, if Cam Jones dropped 10 points, there's so much that we could talk about. If we
Mhm.
saw Johnny Furphy, throw it down or score 10 points or anything, play some good defense, rebound, like anything of the sort that he can do, we would have stuff to talk about that is encouraging and positive that we can build on. But I think for right now, it's just another like, all right, well, hey, the boys didn't have it tonight, but at the same point, not rock bottom. They did keep it close at times. When they were down 21 early on, I thought you and I were going to be coming on to a show where we lost by 30 or more. And, not to pat ourselves on the back that it was only a 16-point loss, but like you at least like to see the heartbeat, the fight in them to be able to, say, hey, we're not just going to roll over and die. But at the same point, hey, tonight might not be the night.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be the story of the season. I think is just taking the little wins, taking the small little glimpses of stuff, right? The buzzer beater from Pascal a couple games ago, Jay Huff leading the league in blocks. When we get some players back and healthy, if we have a Johnny Furphy game, if we have a Jarris game where he goes off for 20 or something, like we're gonna be losing games, and so we're gonna have to find, I think, the highlights in more obscure things than what we're used to doing the last year or so. And so, in next year, who knows from there. But this year, I think we're gonna have to focus on finding, oh, Jay Huff hit some more threes. Let's get excited about that. Like let's just find the things that we can we can cling on to for one more season, and then we'll focus on the draft next year and off season, and we'll hopefully from that point be looking forward to at least more competitive basketball as we get Tyrese to knock the rust off.
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, that is like I just stand by it. I mean, the biggest blessing is the fact that Indiana made the move to get their draft pick back because I
Oof.
just know it would be doom and gloom and thinking about we got to sell off this guy, we got to sell off that. Like, no, we don't. We just gotta you know, turn the calendar and go, all right, November's down. November is down. We are on to December. And eventually we will get to January and we will keep going. And along the way, Tyrese will just keep recovering. And I think that's awesome is like knowing that this isn't some like, where are we going as a franchise? Like, no, we're getting back to playing the greatest hits. Just unfortunately, the music box ain't gonna work until about next summer. So we'll get there. But David, I want to thank you for coming on, especially on short notice. All right. I mean, this was almost like a game time decision. We 10-day contract you. We pulled you off the couch and got you out there. Appreciate you coming back on setting the pace. And I guess just as we wrap up, I mean, just hit us with just something positive as we look towards December, and hopefully the worst is behind us because I'm definitely a believer in that.
Hey, if you want some positivity, okay? Now, this might not seem like positivity, okay?
Ooh.
Some people might spin it, but in my opinion, this is positivity. I'm not saying this, scout's honor. I'm not a scout, but not saying this to diss anybody else. But, Jay Huff had 6 more points than the center for the Bucks and shot 60% from the field, while the center for the Bucks shot 30% from the field. And Jay Huff's making like what, $2.5 million.
Yeah,
Well, the center for the Bucks
14
is
times less.
yeah, the center for the Bucks is making 20 something, 27, something like that. So, he has some great grass over there, but he can't shoot
Yep.
the basket can't shoot the basketball anymore. So
Hey, you gotta mow the grass, you gotta water it, otherwise it doesn't grow and it doesn't turn green. And I will say one thing, there was people that were talking about, the beginning of the year, like, does it really matter what Turner averages if the Bucks are winning? Well, maybe if they're winning, but what if they're not?
Mm,
And when you just drop a game to Washington tonight, you are now 9-13. You're not winning, and your prized free agent that you have 20 plus million in dead cap space for to be able to get is averaging what he's averaging. I think that kind of makes you start to look at the rest of the roster if you're Giannis and go, yeah, I think we messed up. I think they were a little bit deeper of a hole than what we thought, and I think that's a little bit alarming. And if you're Milwaukee and you're going for it, and you're 9-13 and you don't own your draft picks moving forward, that's a bit of an issue. If you're the Pacers and you knew you weren't going to be that good, but you're unfortunately worse, but you do own your picks. You do have a healthy Tyrese coming back and everybody signed. I feel you can say, you know what? Hey, don't worry about us. You guys got some problems. And I think
yeah.
that right now that's exactly what Milwaukee has. And I think it's a good note to end on because that is a little bit of a positive spin for us. So, David, I appreciate you. I know this. I don't think this will be our last time. I'm quite confident our paths are going to cross again. So, David, we got 3 words. If you can end it on this note, I want to TJ McConnell alley-oop it up for you. If you can close it out for him, what do you got for us?
Let's go Pacers.
Appreciate you.